I'm sharing today from Kabbalistic perspective on how each of us have our portion, which is able to meet all our needs. It could be the portion of weather, energy, food, money, whatever it is personally. It's not just a box size of a house, car, food, office relationship. And when we have a vessel that could receive endlessly, then we don't have these short circuits like like up and down, and then we actually shift the ability to respond with more clarity, revelation on the limits, patterns, blockages, curtains, and noticing how spiritual is with the word spirit ritual. And I'm gonna veer off for a minute and say there's a lot of similar things in the yoga pathways. Yoga means to yoke, Kabbalah means to receive. So getting out for a second of just the fact that maybe, we learn from Kabbalah that, energy that we're receiving, like I just shared, we're receiving our portion from Kabbalah is our light, our beingness. I remember I learned from Integral Yoga Institute that the goal is to always be conscious of our ego's presence. In other words, the degree of obliviousness is the degree that the ego is running things. So when we're people-pleasing or we have misconceptions, indoctrinations from the limits of the mind, we are going to be stuck in I, me, mine. But rather, when we grant being, the infinite power of granting, which is to align to what actually is, the reality, and to become more responsible for our reactions rather than to, try to control our thoughts. Rather, it's an ever-present opportunity. And like a business person getting each penny, it matters. We're operators of love and happiness, even when it's in the sense, like pennies of happiness. So undoing is often much more important than the doing. When we're talking about here about happiness that lasts, and also that, suffering really is our pain is our suffering, but the more we resist, the more pain there is. So when we don't talk above our pay grade, for example, each of us have many lifetimes and so on, but if we don't try to be the expert for everyone, for even, for the past, for the future, we can start to recognize that, the ego really struggles with granting being. It isn't able to handle the infinite. It really likes finite. And so we will resist a lot of things that seem beyond their understanding, and it will cause us a lot of suffering. And remembering that we have in Tanya, in Judaism, the Tanya by the Alter Rebbe from Chassidus, we learn the right side of the heart, the left side of the heart. In other cultures, or in neuroscience, we talk about the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain. They really mean the mind. In all of this, we're talking about cognition. So the right side really being the felt sense, the flow, the experience, and the left side being the concept, the self-concept, which is like able to be divided up or looked at. There's a separation there. So sometimes we need to get cleaned off of all this past information and what's causing us suffering, or all the doingness, and we know we're going to be gripped and held until we're cleaned, and it could hurt. That could be the pain. It's the more we fight it back, the more the soap gets in our eyes. So continuing really with the Kabbalah is that recognizing that when we compare ourselves to our perfect self, it's like we're only being judged for the negativity that we created. So when we're unified in our beingness to all the universe with what really is, we'll share endlessly like the Creator. We're not going to be hoarding for ourselves only, or afraid there's not going to be enough. And this is to really be connected to the tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is the light force, the life force, the live force, the livelihood. As we transform to positive that which I just mentioned, the negativity we create. So in other words, here we see there's positivity, negativity, there's creating, and there's destroying. So some people think positivity is creativity and negativity is destruction, but it's not. That's what we know with magnets. Sometimes you have, it seems positive and positive are lining up, but they're not. It could be positive is, in this case, actually something that is creative, and it's able to line up. You get what I'm saying? The magnetism. So if we expose it and we clean it in advance, the full picture is going to be without attachment to a negative rather than a positive whole. So these areas that maybe like, I created it, or, it's mine, or I want it, like this, we start to see where the cause, we have access to blessings when we upgrade our programming. We become certain rather than like, it has to be this way, there's no other way. No, it just is. You get what I mean? Like there's backing up, not you get what I mean. But in the experience, you are one with it. So when we're conscious, there's this uninterrupted flow of love, a perceiving and experiencing even of chaos, which is not ever necessary, even if others see the seeming chaos, because we can see that we're the cause and we have access to the blessing. So when something seems negative, we're not automatically like, this is not part of life, I don't want to deal with this. We upgrade our program to the certainty so that we know that, I can relate to others, I'm not alone, or they're not negative, like they also experience. And that's when we can say, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Everyone, like the meaning there of what does it mean to be negative, positive, creative, destructive. It's different for every situation, for everyone. So there's a deeper meaning. And we know that in order to connect with that deeper meaning, sometimes we have to return to meaning from something off. So I know that at the Manhattan Meditation Center, they're called the Brahma Kumaris. They're very much related to what the first Jew, Abraham, and you see the similarity in the name, was teaching, that we have one, there's, preservation of the force of nature. 2 is creation, 3 is destruction. So they look at it as like, or we could say it differently. We could say there's the creator, the destroyer, and the preserver. Well, in Judaism, we know that these 3 forces all come from the same God. So God is responsible for creating, destroying, and preserving. And how do we return back to this life force, which, again, as said, there could be negativity that we created or we destroyed or we preserved. There's positivity we created, we destroyed, or we preserved, right? So in terms of returning, it requires returning to the truth and seeing things clearly, right? Being clean, unified with the beingness, with all the universe. We know that with attachment and addiction, we have to see through the illusion of whatever it is that we're avoiding by the work of focusing on in order to outgrow it. Like when we take time to talk gossip, we're talking bad about someone to feel superior, we have to be honest that why? Because we feel low, and then we can receive light that's lasting and strong from the source, rather than this in reactive, externalized way, feeling more than someone. So there's a lack, a grabbing energy in a particular way, which causes more lack, through fear of commitment, fear of abandonment. We may like latch onto something, or someone latches onto their phone or to someone from the past, but actually these aren't going to cause a lasting, strong light. So we really do have to return to that source of that light. When we say light of transformation, this is when we have space and capacity to receive it. So when we're in ego, we're cut off. It's called Bina. It's like this higher understanding. The extent of power to the negative can be transmuted to the power to the positive. And this is the energy of holding on in order to let go, or of rejection to acceptance. So like all the squeezing, the energy it takes to let go, or all the energy of like pushing away to accepting. So this we would really say is fear to love. I'm afraid of letting go. I'm afraid of being alone. And then we say, I love this, what it is when I do actually let go, what could come. I love this, what I was trying to not allow it to happen. But we do that when we cleanse our vessel. It can handle more. We usually resist or don't want to let go because we don't think we could handle it. So sadness, complaining, victim, planting seeds of uncertainty, disconnecting from divinity, hurting people, self-judgment. We would say this is what I mentioned before as chaos energy. Even if other people are going through it, it doesn't need to be perceived or experienced by us. It's a separation. And there's 4 ways which cause it. And then I'm going to talk about, once we've done this, how do we return? So there's 3 keys. So 4 ways that we may cause this separation, this cutting. One is idol worship, which could be seen as ego, addiction, unhealthy attachment. 2 is adultery, which could be seen as sexual toxicity, ingratitude, or coveting and jealousy. 3 is bloodshed. This could be hurting people, stinginess, selfishness, evil tongue. Could be gossip, lies, prosecuting. And the I need energy, which is meant to trigger the innate desire to feel the presence of God, has been short-circuited and used for bad, right? So we might have created negativity with that. We can transform from these, holding on to these things or pushing away certain things to transform. And that's when we can get out of this, when we're stuck in this creation, destruction, or preservation, we can transform. So instead of creating and then generating and then destroying negative or positive, we actually get out of this framework. And this is why we say maybe like certain cultures, like I mentioned the Brahma Kumaris, it's like not necessarily is it expansive enough, because here we just introduced a new element of transformation. So how do we physically become vessels for transformation to handle more light? There are 3 tools. 1 is repentance, where we reflect, we adapt, we give up the energy that we got from that sin or the quick fix. Sin meaning lack, right? Like someone says, sin leche means without milk when they order coffee. So it's like feeling what's in that space, that temporarily we're not receiving enough energy, but we connect with the source through that of me, which is really the source of all. The second is prayer. We ask, we think, we don't rely on the buffer. We be in direct contact. For some people, that looks like meditation, to fully experience the divine truth of the real life. And finally, it's charity, which is called cosmic giving. We give from abundance with no strings attached. We're not buying things. We're not trading things. We're just giving. And it's an embodied ritualistic practice, but it's also metaphysical. It's beyond the physical, these keys. And I'm going to stop here, but giving us all a blessing. May we experience transformation from lack to the true source of presence and blessing, which is God, in the tree of life, the light force, the uninterrupted flow of love and unlimited giving, as we are cleaned from all misaligned negativities, positivities, created or destroyed or preserved, and may it happen right away. Good night. Amen.